So Kirstjen Nielsen she is really full-time project of trying to rehabilitate herself. I think the best case scenario for her should be she gets on Dancing with Stars.
Oh yeah.
And then the other version should be that she just she's done professionally unless she goes into some type of like I think she should be working for some organization that's trying to help immigrant children, or maybe she just dedicates her life to finding those kids who are in the foster care system now and now appear to be potentially permanently separated, kidnapped from their parents. But here she is on the Fortune's Most Powerful Women Forum.
There was a policy change at DOJ that was called zero tolerance, that said now everyone crossing the southern border would be prosecuted. In order to do that, they needed children separated from their parents so parents could be prosecuted. In your role as the head of Homeland Security, you had to allow for your agents to separate children from their family. You made that decision in the spring of 2018. I'm asking you if you regret making that decision.
I don't regret enforcing the law because I took an oath to do that, as did everybody at the Department of Homeland Security. We don't make the laws. We asked Congress to change the law. Congress reviewed the law in 2006 and decided to continue to make it illegal to cross in that manner. What I do wish had worked a lot better is that the coordination and information flow were simply insufficient for that number of people coming. It's heartbreaking that any family felt at any time that they had to cross the border illegally, because this is a terrible, dangerous journey. It's terrible. So what I regret is that we haven't solved it, and what I regret is that that information flow and coordination to quickly reunite the families was clearly not in place, and that's why the practice was stopped through an executive order.
She's a psychopath.
Yeah. I mean, I was just following orders.
Right.
And then also there was some measure of incompetence that had nothing to do with me. You know, Brian Beutler had an interesting comment about Bill Taylor, who is this career diplomat who, if you look at the timeline and just the context of his opening testimony, here's a guy who was brought in from the outside. These are career diplomats. They are not partisan. I think this guy was first appointed to the diplomatic corps by George W. Bush. And he's brought in. He's watching what's going on. He realizes in part of the process, like, oh my God, this is totally messed up. And he ultimately thinks that he's corrected it. Now, it's clear in the text exchanges that he's thinking that these texts are going to be subpoenaed. But, and it ultimately resolves itself. The fact that the money, the defense funds were held up gets reported, and the administration basically goes on to, who knows, Plan C or D or whatever it is. But the paradigm of a government official who gets into these positions, realizes what they're doing is really messed up, thinks that they can fix it. You know, that like, I can maintain, like, I can make sure that this does not go off the rails, out of a sense of, like, not loyalty to the president, but loyalty to the country. Like, this is, I can salvage this, right? Like, you know, the story that people used to tell about Mattis and the and the generals, right? Like, well, I'm keeping them from the nuclear, button or whatever it is, and so therefore, do not blow the whistle. Right. When the scandal's revealed, they'll come in and they'll testify like this. Obviously, and they've done that. Kirstjen Nielsen is not that person. She is not that type of player. There is no indication that at any time she tried to do anything other than to fully execute these really inhumane directives that were coming from the DOJ. And to let her pretend otherwise would be criminal. And kudos to the folks at Credo. They've advertised on the show in the past. They've been a sponsor years ago. I've had Credo people on prior to that to talk about their political action. Here is the Credo Action Co-Director, Heidi Hess, protesting this Nielsen appearance as part of their, her program to, rebrand herself.
Fortune and PBS want to help her rehabilitate herself, and I'm just going to stay here. I'm just going to stay here until Kirstjen Nielsen's done speaking. I'm just going to stay here until Kirstjen Nielsen is done speaking. I'm just going to stay here until she's done speaking.
Why don't you let her stay?
Why don't you go someplace else?
Why don't you just let her stay?
Why don't you go someplace else?
She's just here trying to have some accountability.
Yeah?
Why don't you just let her stay? Don't touch me.
I'm not touching you.
Good.
But I can do anything I want to do.
Good.
Yeah?
From their families. So I'm going to stay. She's downstairs speaking right now, and I'm going to stay until she finishes. Kirstjen Nielsen separated thousands of children from their families, and now Fortune and PBS are helping her rehabilitate herself. Hillary Clinton and Dream Hampton and Brandy Carlisle all refused to come today. They all refused to help Fortune and PBS be complicit in rehabilitating a child snatcher. And
Nice.
Good for her. Good for her. Some of those kidnapped children will never see their parents again. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And at the very least, by holding publicly these people to account, there's, maybe we'll see some type of, hopefully with the next president, some accountability and some ability to reunite these kids. It's sick.
It's so sick.